So basically, the gameplay is going to be the same as it's been for the wedding incident, where their own BFFs like Uncle Joey or Assad would be present in the wedding incident, and what they would do is they would try to put my name in there and try to say that it's Hassan's fault, that this crime occurred, or this bad thing was said, or anything of that sort of nature. The only difference now is that instead of having law enforcement narrate the lie, which was a lie, the wedding incident obviously was a lie, and law enforcement themselves confessed right before presenting it that they were lying and fabricating against me. Instead of having law enforcement present this lie, they have Ibrahim the Greedy Framer and his framers, my dad the Greedy Framer, his framer siblings, and Ibrahim the Greedy Framer presented. The narrative has been changed for obvious reasons. They did not want to stop their sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws or their money fraud, which was ongoing and only stopped 2 months ago after the government got on their back. But the gameplay is going to be the same. They're still going to take something that I have nothing to do with, try to blame it on me, despite it being something that their own BFFs like Uncle Joey or Assad would commit or do, and they would try to blame it on me the best they could, only to try to lock up my brain savant. That is probably definitely what happened on November 20th, except the crime and setting did not even exist on November 20th. The first set of lies in early January 2026 that Ibrahim the Greedy Framer, the spokesperson, the drug-addicted sex addict, used against me in early January 2026, gameplay was definitely the same. They use a crime that their own BFFs like Assad or Uncle Joey would commit, and then they would blame it on me and say that it's all Hassan's fault, that he committed it, only to be found out that I had nothing to do with it again. And then the third set of lies were made the same way. Early April 2026, they would take a crime that their own BFFs like Uncle Joey or Assad would commit, and then they would blame it on me and say that it's Hassan's fault that this person committed this crime, only to find out that I had nothing to do with it. My mother took me out of every setting the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, and I've done nothing but work hard ever since, and that it was not because of me being tipped off about law enforcement being there, since I'm not the person who tipped everyone off. Law enforcement was. Biggest evidence of this fact is the fact that they've been running their sex schemes right now as we speak, and their money fraud only stopped 2 months ago, and the entire government had to get on their backs to do that. My mother kept her promise the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity. Law enforcement did not keep their promise to their country, not since 2001. They've been running their sex scheme with Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, and right now, law enforcement did not keep their promise to their country. Only 2 months ago, the government forced them to stop their money fraud. They never kept their promise to their country. My mother made a promise, she kept it. The moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity, the facts and evidences will show that I was never seen in any setting where anything remotely considered bad was ever said around me ever again. And it was not because of me being tipped off, since if I was tipped off, then other people would have been tipped off again as well. You know how the conscience of a guilty person is. My dad in his circus in 2011 disappeared like that as soon as he was tipped off, and that's how I knew that he was tipped off. Obviously, I'm not psychic enough to know that, and the details are in previous videos, but if I was tipped off, other people would have been tipped off, and they would never say anything even remotely considered bad around me or anyone else, or even in their own house ever again. Just like how my dad was doing something extremely dangerous in 2011. Big difference between the two. Doing and saying. He was doing something that was a crime and extremely dangerous, which was very dangerous, and my dad was recruiting people to basically join terror groups. And the entire 50 people in his sermons never made one noise. I never reported it due to the fact that it was obvious that he was already tipped off, but he was doing that, okay? And there's a big difference between someone saying something and someone doing something, a big difference between the two, and the facts and evidences are in the previous videos, okay? But the thing about it is, if I was tipped off, then other people would have been tipped off, but the fact of the matter is, law enforcement tipped everyone off, whether it was my dad, the Greedy Framer in 2011, which is why I knew the circus closed overnight, not because of a change of heart, but because he was tipped off. Law enforcement tipped off Assad. He's been narrating about the wedding incident after committing the crime, being present in it, discussing it after it's been committed with the other people in the wedding who committed the crime with him, and now he's narrating in the trial about the wedding incident. Very ironic, if you'd ask me. Insane, not supposed to happen like that. And then law enforcement tipped everyone off, basically. Uncle Joey, in case he ever said anything bad around me as a child, everyone was tipped off by law enforcement, not me. So this tipping off thing is not true. It can't be true, since if I was tipped off, then other people would have been tipped off. But other people were not tipped off by me. They were tipped off by law enforcement. So this theory, it doesn't make any sense, since I never tipped anyone off. Law enforcement tipped everyone off. So basically, yeah. My mother kept her promise the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, and now law enforcement has used the same exact gameplay for each and every single one of their false testimonies. The only difference is these false testimonies are being made by my dad, the greedy framer, and his framer sisters, or their kids like Ibrahim, the greedy framer. Now, the thing about it is just the fact that Ibrahim's envious mother had already confessed to the government informant. First thing the government informant asked her was, "You have anything real against Hassan? Because we need something real against him, and then we're going to fabricate that." And his mother clearly told law enforcement, "I do not have anything against Hassan. I do not have anything." So then law enforcement helped her get the same exact gameplay. There's only one gameplay possible, the same exact one for the wedding incident, which law enforcement confessed right before trying to frame me for the wedding incident that I had nothing to do with it. So the gameplay was the same for November 20th. Say that Hassan had something to do with a crime or something that occurred that one of law enforcement's own BFFs like Assad or Uncle Joey would have committed. Then the gameplay would have been the same for the lie starting early January 2026. Blame Hassan and say that he had something to do with a crime that your own BFFs like Assad or Uncle Joey committed. Okay, then they get caught again. I had nothing to do with it. My mother removed me from every setting where anything remotely considered bad could have been said around me. The moment I became even slightly mentally mature, I was not tipped off. If I was, then I would have been one tipping off instead of law enforcement. But the facts and evidences show that it was obviously law enforcement tipping everyone off, since their sex scheme and money fraud are still ongoing right now as we speak. So obviously it was them. And so then the third set of lies, early April 2026, same exact thing. Take a crime that one of our own BFFs like Uncle Joey or Assad committed, blame it all on Hassan, and say that Hassan committed it. The only difference is the narrators are my dad, the greedy framer, his framer sisters, or Ibrahim, the greedy framer, the drug-addicted sex addict. Same exact play. They get caught with the third lie, and now obviously they've getting caught with the fourth lie. Again, fourth lie. Every single time they get caught with a lie, they're like, "No, wait, here's evidence. Evidence right over here. I've got surrounding facts against this evidence, surrounding statements, and all the surrounding statements would be false. The evidence would have absolutely nothing to do with me, just like it happened at the wedding crime, just like it happened on November 20th. It was never about me. It was all about law enforcement and their own BFFs, and it had nothing to do with me. My mother made a promise that she fulfilled the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, never to be seen in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could be ever said around me. It was not due to me being tipped off, since the facts and evidences show that if I was tipped off, I would have been tipping other people off, but it wasn't me tipping anyone off. It was law enforcement, and common sense dictates that it was law enforcement, and the facts and evidences show that. But also, we see the sex schemes and money fraud ongoing right now as we speak. So clearly it was them tipping everyone off. So yeah, the fourth false testimony was the exact same way. They basically said, take a crime that our own BFFs like Uncle Joey or Assad would commit, blame it all on Hassan and say that Hassan committed it. And the same exact thing. Ibrahim, the greedy framer, came up again. He's like, "No, wait, third one was a lie, but here's a fourth one. Here's the evidence. I've got surrounding statements around it." He did the exact same thing, and now he's been caught with the fourth one, which I know for a fact, since he started with the blackmail price tag, which means for the $22.5 million, just to use the brain scanner, which is not part of the things from their mom and pop shop, okay? This is, brain scanner is used by the government to investigate crimes, not used by people like Ibrahim to find out if my brain's willing to give him the 22.5 million after my brain savant gets freed or not. Okay, that's not what the brain scanner should be used for. Okay, but yeah, the same things happened with the fourth thing. They just went like Ibrahim went like, "No, wait, the first three were lies. Here's the fourth one, evidence right over here." And I've got surrounding statements around it. Every single time he gets caught, he just starts with a new one. He gets caught, he starts with a new one. And then they try to switch around narrators. Everyone's been caught lying. But you have to remember the fact that the Assad and Bushra Akhtar are way more guilty than I could ever be. Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me something in 2019 that I abruptly stopped her on. And I told her that I did not want to know. Bushra Akhtar not only would be involved in the wedding crime, but she knows about every single thing that I would not even know about. Why? How am I so sure? For one, I was watched 24/7. Okay, since I was a child, since I was 11 years old, which means that the facts and evidences clearly show that I know nothing about anything even remotely considered bad, excuse me, going on in anyone's life. Bushra Akhtar would know everything. She had the money to go meet people. She had the money to go attend weddings. She had the means to do so. Okay, and then they're not letting me talk right now. The other thing is also the fact that, yeah, Bushra Akhtar, people like Assad who are going to try to narrate against me in this trial would also be present in the wedding incident. Okay, yeah. And obviously, Uncle Joey would be present as well, but he's not going to try to narrate against me. But the fact of the matter is, Bushra Akhtar and Assad would definitely be present in the wedding incident, okay? And yeah, so they're criminals, not me. They knew about crimes like Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me in 2019. I stopped her abruptly. I was like, I don't want to know. I don't care. I've never known about it my entire life. And the facts and evidences will show that from the moment I gained the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child, I've never been seen in any setting where anything remotely considered bad could have been said around me. Not because I was tipped off, since if I was tipped off, I would have been running sex schemes and money fraud with everyone that I tipped off. Not law enforcement, but right now it's law enforcement running these sex schemes and money fraud, clearly showing from facts and evidences that they went around tipping everyone off. Not me. I had nothing to do with it. If I tipped someone off when I became even slightly mentally mature, then why were these people still saying things that were considered even remotely bad after I was removed from every setting? Doesn't make any sense now, does it? It was only law enforcement tipping everyone off because they wanted extra hands for their money fraud and sex schemes. That makes more sense. Yeah. So basically, yeah, Bushra Akhtar and Assad are both criminals, and they've committed the wedding crime. Okay, and not only that, they knew about other things that were going on. They never cared to report it, only for them to find out about my brain savant and then enviously try to lock up my brain savant any means possible. They are the only options left for narrating right now, since everyone is found to be guilty of lying over and over and over again. And yeah, but Bushra Akhtar and Assad are definitely criminals. I am not one, and they should be held responsible for the wedding crime. Obviously, I'm not responsible for that. They should also be responsible for other crimes that Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me in 2019 before I suddenly stopped her, abruptly stopped her, that she knew about as an adult. She never reported. She should be held responsible for those crimes as well. She should be held responsible for the wedding crime. So should Assad. Assad would not only be seen present at the wedding crime, he would be seen committing it. Not only would he be seen committing it, he would be seen throughout the entire wedding discussing with the other people that that same wedding crime, instead of meeting with the other people on the wedding, only being with the people in the wedding who would commit the crime. How do I know this? It's basic criminal psychology. Same reason I knew that Ibrahim, the greedy, famous, envious mother, told the government informant about all her subsequent lies. It's criminal psychology. You meet another criminal, you transfer the weight off your chest to them, and that's exactly what Assad was doing the entire wedding. He was transferring the weight off his chest with the other people in the wedding for after the wedding crime. Okay, these people should be held responsible for their crimes first. Why did they commit it? And the thing that Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me in 2019, why didn't she report it? Fact of the matter is, Assad and Bushra Akhtar are only trying to make up lies against me, fabrications and exaggerations against me, despite the facts and evidences clearly showing that I have done absolutely nothing wrong my entire life. And people like Assad were going around committing crimes like the wedding crime incident, never even questioned about a single thing. Bushra Akhtar not only committed the wedding crime, she also knew about other things and crimes that occurred that she was trying to and about to tell me in 2019 before I abruptly stopped her. These people never cared a thing. Right now, they're only trying to frame me and exaggerate or fabricate testimonies against me due to extreme envy of my brain savant, and that's all there is to it. If they want to play court case, then these people should be held responsible for their crimes, the ones that we have facts and evidences for, not the fabrications and exaggerations that they're trying to make against me, because those fabrications and exaggerations don't have any evidence to them. They have evidence of someone else saying something bad like the wedding incident was, and then trying to blame me for it, even though I wouldn't be present at that wedding. That's exactly what they're trying to do for law enforcement now that law enforcement is no longer allowed to narrate after 2023. my dad, the Greek family sisters, and Ibrahim is not allowed to narrate anymore after having 4 sets of lies found against me, one after the other. So now if Bushra Akhtar and people like Assad want to play court cases, then they have to remember the fact that there's no evidence against me, and the evidence is against law enforcement's own BFFs, like the wedding incident crime, where law enforcement then says it's Hassan's fault that this crime occurred, when the facts and evidences in the end will show that I was not even remotely present in the crime scene. Not only that, law enforcement confessed right before it that I had nothing to do with it, and they knew that I had nothing to do with it, clearly showing that that is exactly how all the rest of the crimes were and are being trying to frame on me. But since there's no evidence of whatever Bushra Akhtar and Assad are saying, and there's evidence of Bushra Akhtar knowing about crimes being committed that she was about to tell me in 2019, and there's evidence of Assad committing the crime in the wedding, which was a heinous crime, and then throughout the entire wedding doing nothing but talking with the other people who committed the crime and not even meeting with the other people, clearly showing that Assad should definitely be tried for that wedding crime, along with every single thing that Bushra Akhtar and Assad knew about that I could not know about, since poverty was a blessing in disguise for me, and all I did was work hard in my life until the moment my brain savant was known about, till from when they're not letting me talk, from when law enforcement has been doing nothing but trying to frame me for one false accusation after another. But if Assad and Bushra Akhtar want to play court cases, then they have to understand the fact that the evidence against them is overwhelming, and Assad's involvement in the wedding crime, which was a heinous crime, I know for a fact because I saw a video of Kim Jong-un and President Putin meeting and they clearly look like the wedding crime that I was being falsely accused of and almost framed for was a heinous crime that Assad committed, and yet he's walking around freely. So if he wants to play court cases, then he has to answer why he committed that crime, and why after committing that crime and knowing about that crime being committed right in front of his face, which he cannot deny that never happened, Assad wants to say that it's my fault that someone even could have even remotely have said anything bad around me as a child, like Uncle Joey, but that it's not his fault as an adult without his mother taking permission from law enforcement to be there as an adult. He's there present as an adult. He's not a child. His mother hasn't taken permission from law enforcement for him to be adult supervised over there as a child. Okay, he's present there as an adult. He's committing crime as an adult. He's watching a crime being committed as an adult, and he wants me to be blamed for something like that Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child, when even though that's saying and not doing, and that's after my mother had gotten permission from law enforcement for me to be adult supervised there, and my mother had made agreement with law enforcement that a promise she fulfilled the moment I gained a slight bit of mental maturity, never for me to ever again be present in any setting where anything remotely considered bad could have been said around me. Whereas Assad has none of these things. He's not a child. His mother has not taken permission from law enforcement. No promises made to law enforcement from his mother. He's present there as an adult, as his own free will, voluntarily, not involuntarily. Okay, he's committing the crime, and he's watching the crime being committed. After committing the crime, he's discussing the crime with the other criminals in the wedding throughout the entire wedding, not caring about a single thing about it. So people like this should, first of all, be held responsible for their crimes, and know the heinous crime that they committed, knew about, were involved in with the other people who committed them, instead of trying to blame me for it. Except for this, these people like Bushra Akhtar and Assad should also be blamed for the crimes that they knew were committed, never cared about a thing about reporting it as adults, even though they could report things as adults. And even if someone said anything remotely considered bad around me as a child, for one, permission was taken from law enforcement for me to be there. I was only adult supervised. I could not report it. My mother was not present there. She was at work, clearly showing that she was telling the truth when she said that to law enforcement when I was an 11-year-old child. And yeah, since my mother was not there, she didn't have to report anything, and I was removed the first moment I could gain the slightest bit of mental maturity as a child. I was not tipped off, since I never tipped anyone off. It was law enforcement tipping everyone off, so that theory is put aside. So basically, yeah, me being there as a child, anything even remotely considered bad could have been said around me is one thing. Assad being present there as an adult where a crime is committed, it's a heinous crime. I could tell from the way Kim Jong-un and President Putin were looking when they were trying to frame me for it in the year 2023. It was a heinous crime. Assad knew about it. He committed it throughout the entire wedding. He was discussing the crime with the other people who committed it throughout the entire wedding, not going anywhere else or even talking to anyone else. And then afterwards, Assad was always with these people who committed the crimes with him. I had nothing to do with it or any other crimes. Bushra Akhtar also knew about not just this wedding crime, she also knew about other crimes that were committed that Bushra Akhtar was almost told me about in the year 2019. That she almost told me about in the year 2019. I did not care. I just told her, I don't want to know. I really don't care. These people need to be held responsible for the crimes that they committed. They confess to knowing about. They never reported or did a single thing about that they committed themselves in the wedding incident. Instead of trying to fabricate false testimonies against me out of extreme envy. People like Bushra Akhtar, I know for a fact, are extremely envious of me, because one time she was talking to my mother and I just said from the side as a joke, I was like, well, I'm going to have a private plane soon, so I'll take you wherever you need to go. And she got so envious. She was like, my throat's hurting. And she hung up the phone really quickly because of how envious she was. And I clearly knew at that moment that she was told about the artificial intelligence brain savant, due to which she's so extremely envious. Right now, it's no longer a theory, due to the fact that every single person that claimed that they didn't know about my brain savant or never cared about it, or they didn't think it had any monetary potential. Right now, only 6 days ago, Ibrahim was trying to get law enforcement to get me to marry his sister, which was basically a Ponzi scheme. Okay, my dad, the Greedy Famer, has been sending me blackmail price tags all day and night long. The Greedy Famer has switched from one daughter to two daughters. We're trying to get me married to two of her daughters in a very sexually explicit way, very disgusting, something that you would not expect a nun to be advertising for her daughters. Definitely not. These people are basically, they were trying to claim that it was one thing, but it was something totally different. And these people were all about money from the start. Extremely envious of the brain savant potential and the monetary value that artificial intelligence has told law enforcement about, due to which they were doing this. And Ibrahim's envious mother has confessed to the fact of being extremely envious of my brain savant, due to which she was doing this. Clearly showing that if these people all knew about it, Assad and Bushra Akhtar also do too as well. And these people are all extremely envious of the fact that my brain savant will be freed and I've become extremely rich, due to which they are doing all of this, completely ignoring the fact that the things that they want to try to blame me for, I have nothing to do for. There's no evidence for me with it. If I was present in any settings where anything remotely considered bad could have been said around me, there was permission taken from law enforcement. My mother was never there. A child cannot report anything, and a child whose permission has already been taken by law enforcement is a totally separate case, especially considering the fact that my mother made a promise she fulfilled the moment I became even slightly mentally mature as a child. And the woman like Farah the Greedy Famer, I mean, it's unarguable that these people are all over my brain savant money and were only making up lies due to extreme envy of it. This is just from July 14, 8:51. This is how a woman who dresses up like a nun is advertising her daughters to me. Absolutely insane that someone would do this. She literally she dresses up like a nun, and like, look at how she's like advertising the girl in the gray, the top for the girl in the gray, or the bottom for the girl in the blue. You have to remember the fact that Farah the Greedy Famer dresses up like a nun, and this is how she's advertising her daughters to me. She sent me more than 50 requests for her daughters in the past month. 50 requests for her daughter in the past month. And not only that, she sent me at least 40 since July 6th, when I labeled it basically a Ponzi scheme, where she wants me to sign a prenup agreement so she could harass me for the rest of my life for money. And so these people are all about money. They're all extremely envious of my brain savant potential, and they're extremely greedy for it as well. Assad and Bushra Akhtar are just the new additions. They're extremely guilty. They should be held for their crimes rather than being allowed to narrate. Okay, I never did anything bad my entire life. I never even knew about anything bad occurring, because of the fact that poverty was a blessing in disguise for me. All right, and then later on, I was found to have a brain savant. Due to which law enforcement became extremely obsessed with me not letting my brain savant freed at any cost, not even letting it be tested out. And right now, they only tested out, overanalyzed June 24th due to having the police call on Junaid every single day. And now law enforcement was really desperate. Like, they had nothing other to do. They said, we have to gamble over the June 24th. The most that's going to happen is it's just going to say that his brain savant powers are incredibly powerful. It's not going to make any difference, but we have have to take the chances that it's going to say that his brain savant powers are not as powerful, because if it says that, then we could take away his power that he has over all these girls and everything. I don't have any powers over any girls or anything. There is just, these people are insane. They're sex addicted and they're not worth anything, due to which the girls don't like them. They call the police on them. It has nothing to do with me. But yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you.